Well, Kathy, you said that I believe in me. This isn't about me. This race is not about me. This is about all of us. The very name of this job is representative. Any one of you in this room could be the candidate for Congress. And you talked about finishing this mission of becoming your new representative. I was talking to Scott Klug. He's the guy who encouraged me to run for his old seat. He said, if you'll run, I'll be your honorary chairman. And he checks in with me, and he checked in a couple of days ago. And he said, you're going to just, when it looks like you're actually going to become the congressman, you'll feel things just start to gel. Things will fall into place. And we had so much concern yesterday that because of the cold weather, that there was going to be sleet today, and that you wouldn't be able to be here. So that's gelling. Yesterday I was on Mitch Hank's show, and he said, I want to introduce Congressman Dave Magnum. That was a wonderful Freudian slip. We are very, very excited. And I'll tell you, when I was shaving this morning, and when you're a candidate, you're sleeping about 2 hours a night, and you almost have blinders on, and you don't even want to look at your schedule for the next day until the next day, because you get overwhelmed with all of the things that you're doing. But this morning, as I familiarized myself with what we were going to do here today, and I was shaving and really focusing on this opportunity to be here at the Women's Health Foundation and thinking about Sue Ann Thompson. I started my business in Toma in 1991. And I had the opportunity to get to know the Thompsons, because that's Tommy's old stopping grounds just up the road from Elroy, as you know. And as I got to know Tommy, and when we spent a lot of time talking about personal issues, I found out, we all knew about what Sue Ann was dealing with cancer. I found out that Sue Ann's mother died of breast cancer. We know what their daughter Tommy is, and she's doing so well. She's doing so well. But I have this kinship, this sad kinship with the Thompson family because of this issue. And you know, I almost didn't run for Congress again. We ran in 2004, didn't start until July of the election year, started very late. And what Scott Klug reminded me when it was all over is that we got most of the newspaper endorsements in this district. Strong endorsement from the Wisconsin State Journal, the Janesville newspaper, the Beloit newspaper. And what he said is that proved that on a level playing field, I made a better case to be the congressman, because it proved that when we had the same number of people, those editorial boards in that room, the same number of people, I won. I made a better case to be the congressman, and that was a great foundation to build on. So we're having opportunities to do events like this. All of the grassroots work that I've done, starting on November 15th of last year. But this is what I want to share with you this morning, and I've never shared this with anybody before, and this is what came to me this morning as I was shaving. I almost didn't run again because my opponent had suggested that when I talk about the fact that my wife dealt with breast cancer, that I was using that as a sympathy vote to take that, to ride my wife's tragedy into Congress. And I almost didn't run again, because the last thing I would have ever wanted my kids to do is Google me, you know, sometime down the road. And Scott Klug wanted me to run for this office because he knows that I've been negotiating with insurance companies since 1991 to provide benefits to my co-workers in my business. And I provide, because of what we found with my wife's illness, we provide benefits to my co-workers with zero payroll deduction, because health care is so important. And Scott wanted me to run for this office because he knows that not only do I understand it from the business side, working to provide these benefits to my staff, but I understand it from the patient's point of view too. I know that doctors really are practicing defensive medicine, because I hauled her doctors out into the hallway a few times and said, why is she having to go through this painful and redundant testing? Her breast cancer went from breast cancer to bone cancer, ultimately to brain cancer. And those doctors said, because we have to guard against malpractice liability. And when doctors say that 40% of the procedures that they're performing are to just guard against the lawsuits that can come, Tommy Thompson, when he headed up HHS, said if we could just rein in trial lawyers so that doctors didn't have to practice defensive medicine, we could cut the overall cost of health care by 5 to 9%. So there are many incremental, practical things that we can do. That is just one of them. This is what I want to share with you. And I had a lady this morning just stop me. It's such a privilege to have this opportunity. I had a lady stop me. I left Channel 15 where there was a program that'll be on right before Face the Nation this Sunday morning. But a lady came up to me, she saw the band, and she said, there's going to be a forum about Darfur and the Sudan, and you know the great tragedy there. 400,000 people have died there. That's more than the metro area of Madison. She came running up to me, and she gave me a pamphlet, and she said, I want you to be there. And I said, why would you say that? And she said, because I've seen your television commercials, I've heard what you've had to say, and I just know that you care. I just know that you care about this. And I feel so good about the fact that people have said, even if they don't agree with me on every issue, they know that I'm genuine, that I'm speaking from the heart. And let me just share this with you. Let me share this with you. Part of the real life experience that I want to take to Washington as your representative. And we all have things that happen in our life that turn out to be such blessings. I was riding in the car with my wife about a year before she was diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed when our youngest son was 5 months old. We had everything. We thought we had the world. Just by my grandmother told me, she came to my son's birthday party, I'll never forget it. She said, wow, you're living the American dream. Your beautiful wife, this beautiful child, and then she was pregnant with my son Ty. We were driving in the car, listening to the radio, and a news story came on. And they talked about how many men end up leaving their wives if their wife is diagnosed with breast cancer and has to go through some disfigurement. And I just looked at her, and she wasn't diagnosed with cancer. This was a year before that happened. But I turned to her and I said, darling, if that would ever happen to you, I don't ever want you to think for a second that would have any impact on the way that I look at you. And lo and behold, a year later, she went through a double mastectomy. And I thank God that I had that blessing to let her know that. And that was never a question. That was never a question. This is the real life experience that I want to take to Washington. Last night at a debate in Beloit, talking about education, and we've got children now with adult onset diabetes, some as young as age 10. My kids are 12 and 10. I am going to continue to make my home Wisconsin. Home is where the heart is. My home is in Wisconsin, and with education, I was at parent-teacher conferences this week. I'm not going to have to rely on a briefing paper, as you just said, or somebody telling me what's going on here in the real world. And when our current representative is so out of touch that this summer, while the rest of us were wincing every time we put $3.25 a gallon gas in our car, and she voted to give herself a pay raise to $168,500 a year. Yeah, I've talked to all of you. My mom's parents were daily Democrats from Chicago. My dad's Republican farmers from Wisconsin. You know, I'm calling them like I'm seeing them. I'm letting the chips fall where they may. But Dave Obey, a Wisconsin Democrat, he was in touch enough to not vote for that pay raise. Ron Kind didn't do that. We need to bring this office back home to Wisconsin. I'm not going to be, you mentioned Hollywood, and it's a fair mention, because Congresswoman Baldwin, her #1 out-of-state fundraising zip code is West Hollywood, California. I'm not going to be concerned about Hollywood, California, or places like New York City. I'm going to be concerned about, not New York, but places like New Glarus. Places like New Glarus. Folks, we started this campaign in the spring. I went around and helped seniors find out how they could deal effectively with Medicare Part D. There were Democrats that asked me if they could use my plan so they could share that with their constituents. Tommy Thompson says we are the congressional office in exile because we've already been doing the work. And I can't wait, with your help, to make it official on January 3rd. I would be so honored to do this job for you. I'm so heartened by your support today. Thank you very much.